with audio preferably. Alright. Hi folks. Now, I know that there are some people listening that I can't see, but for those that I can see, how many have had their life be easy and gentle and fun the last few days? This is a good thing. This means you're doing something right if your life's been messy. I'll give you the upshot right at the start, and then I'll walk a long way around the bush and say it again. Take about an hour. But the start, it's okay that it's messy. What matters right now is how you handle it. Now, listen. In essence, what we're doing is setting the direction the energies will follow, potentially for thousands of years. This happens at the start of an age, and again, I'll walk the long way around, but we are setting the direction. And so how we handle things now actually makes an imprint that much in the future will follow. It's okay to be messy, it's okay to be chaotic, it's okay if stuff's coming up. Our only challenge at this point is to stay in our guts. To be as who we truly are as we can be. And stay grounded and breathe. And if stuff doesn't get done or things are messy, all that's secondary. What matters is that you stay centered, grounded, breathing. And that you be as you, as truly you, as katon, as deep self as you can be. That's all. Now I could stop talking there, that'd be enough. Most of you don't like simple answers. You want lots of words. So I'll give you some more words. Most of you understand a little bit about DNA. DNA is the long, twisty things inside your cells that tell your cells what to look like. Right? If your dad had dark hair and your mom had dark hair, you probably have dark hair. That kind of thing is passed down. Genetic characteristics. This is pretty standard, simple science. What I want you to understand is that meta things are passed down as well. Now, if you've read stories of King Arthur, if you read various religious books, you'll see things like this is going to be visited on your family for the next 7 generations. Or the sins of the fathers are paid for by the children for the next 7 generations. And you think, how can that be? What I'm telling you is that things are passed down. Now, there are 2 ways that they get passed down. Let's say that you live a life where you are raped, or tortured, or beaten, or something that scars you very badly. Your next lifetime, you're going to have buried memories of those things. If you've read Illusions by Richard Bach, he takes a little girl who's afraid of heights, and he explains to her that she fell to her death in a former life, and helps her let that go. There's a lot of, several places I've heard the discussion that people with asthma are ones who've burned to death in a former lifetime, and that clearing that past life trauma makes the asthma go away. There's a lot of, mostly at this point, anecdotal evidence that traumas from former lifetimes, from other lifetimes, affect us in this lifetime. Some of you have first-hand experience with it. And if you don't, talk to some of the older students, because they do. Now, the second way that these traumas are passed forward is more important. Let's say that, long time ago, a peasant was accused of a crime by someone in power. and thrown in the dungeon and tortured and kept there for a long time. And when they came out, they were physically scarred and emotionally scarred. And they went back and eventually raised a family. Well, they're going to be waking up every night, fear and panic and pain. Their body's going to be weak. Their emotions are going to be shattered. If you've been abused long enough, you get damaged. And what happens is children, all of you know this because you've worked with men and fen, children imprint on their parents. And so that if that man had children, the damage, the trauma, the scars imprint on the child's energy system. And once that's imprinted, that child will have children. And that child's children will imprint on their parent. And that damage from dad who was a granddad who was tortured gets passed down. Now, if your dad was a torturer, say he worked with Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, or any number of other less than ideal people in the world, there are governments still that are using torture in our world today. Whether they caused it or whether they were the victim of it, that imprints on their system and that's passed down to their children. And it's not complicated, it's just that children, when their nodes are developing, imprint on the people around them. So, your granddad went through this. Dad imprinted on him, and gets passed down to you. Now, somewhere in Dad's life, he's going to go through something horrible. If he's smart, or if he's got a good teacher, he's going to feel it and ground and breathe and work through it and let it go. How many people do you suppose are handling their traumas by feeling and grounding and breathing and letting them go? I mean, outside of your little pack, it's a pretty rare thing. Most people just bury it, shove it down, and it comes up in nightmares and such, and eventually they quit paying attention. But it stays. And so Dad went through some sort of trauma in his life, probably several, and Mom went through some, probably several. And they didn't clear those, and so those things are stuck inside them. And so in addition to Grandpa's experience being locked up and tortured, there's Dad and Mom's trauma, and those get passed down. And when that kid has children, all of their trauma, all the bad things in their life that they've stored and not gotten rid of, get passed down to their kids. In effect, you are born with many generations of pain and fear and trauma ingrained in you. Born isn't quite right. As your energy systems develop, you imprint on these people. But many, many generations of pain and suffering and difficulty get imprinted into you. Now, after enough generations, it becomes a sort of vague background noise. It's not quite so sharp. The more recent traumas will override it. So, generally speaking, you don't have 1,000-year-old stuff, but for the last 5 to 10 generations, the traumas, the chaos they went through get passed down in a kind of metagenetics. Now, I want you to understand this. And I want you to look, every one of you who's at least a yellow belt has worked with the men and fen stuff. Said, oh my God, I've got little pieces of Mom inside that yell at me when I'm screwing up. Oh, I'm explaining to Dad inside. You know from your own experience, you've got pieces of Mom and Dad inside. And the longer you do this, the more of them you find. Oh, there's another piece of Mom, another piece of Dad. I want you to understand that they don't get there magically. It's not like, you ate a bowl of soup and suddenly you have Mom inside. Your energy system imprints on them. And your energy system, as it develops, each level wants to imprint on something. And so you understand from your own experience that if you imprint on your parents, and they imprinted on their parents, and they imprinted on their parents, how your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents are all inside somehow. All of them. And I want you to understand this. It's not complicated. Now, a child dealing with this world finds that there's a lot of pain. I mean a very small child just learning to sit up. There's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of confusion, there's fear, there's stuff too big to handle. It's a tough thing to be a small child. Just handling this world. That's without generations of garbage being put into you. children have it tough. With all of this generations of metagenetic pain being passed down, they have it basically impossible. Which is why you guys have to work as hard as you do. This should be easy. Well, yes. Considering that you're personally processing many generations worth of horrific chaos and pain, this is easy. You're going through generations of craziness. And for the most part, you're really sad or upset for a day or 2 days or 3 days, and then you come back to normal. In the meantime, there's laughing and there's fun and there's hanging out with everybody. Considering what you're going through, this is incredibly easy. This is a Herculean endeavor. And so, what you guys are going through, and then what I'm doing, they're independent. You guys each have this process you're working through. I'm working on a much larger scale. And in this much larger scale, I'm trying to change the shape of the world at a very fundamental level. One of the things that I notice is this metagenetic pain you're all dealing with. Even at black belt level, you still have this stuff coming up. So what I did is, I don't know, a week and a half ago now. A week. Around the 11th, 10th or 11th. It was around the 11/11 time. What I did was to go through and create, most of you know the LPAs, the A1M and the A3F and the rest of them, to create absolute versions of these things, like statues that hold a perfected energy off a place where nobody can get to them. And then I set up a process that runs around this world, around these worlds, and anytime somebody's nodes are coming online, instead of looking for the closest person and printing on them, they will be guided to go out and find one of these in-power archetypes and imprint on them. So that as children grow, they won't have to deal with generations of chaos. They can actually be imprinting in-power archetypes, LPAs, from the very beginning. Now, maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment, but that didn't seem like enough to me. So what I did was set up something, it's way too complicated to force it, but I set up something that would work as an ongoing process. You'll probably feel it in waves, and it will probably take potentially years to finish working out the details. But every place that you have inside you, where there's mom, where there's dad, where there's granddad, where there's these former things that you've imprinted, every one of them should be re-imprinting whether you want it or not. These things should be working through you and finding the places where you're imprinted on something unhealthy and letting you ground that and get rid of it and re-imprinting it on one of the in-power LPAs, so that in 6 months or a year you'll be able to take a deep breath and stretch your shoulders, and nowhere inside are you going to find chaos from your parents or your grandparents and so on. And if this works as I am intending, it will make the process that you guys go through far, far easier. I mean, astoundingly easier. And it's going to change everything, because children aren't growing up with all this old pain. They only have their own stuff to contend with. Now, I've done some larger scale workings in the last 2 years, but this one came at a greater cost than any of the others. I mean, I can create a tool and not worry about it, like the grounding belts. Or I can do a working that changes things around the world and, feel it for a few hours. This one, it took almost a week. Today's the first day that I was able to actually go out and do anything. Everything I had was just burned out, was destroyed from doing this. It was just too big. So, I hadn't expected it to kick back that hard. But what it tells me is that the work it did is far bigger than I realized. And so here's the results. Every one of you has mom stuff come up. And every one of you has dad stuff coming up. And because mom had her mom and her dad, And a dad had his mom and his dad. You've got their parents coming in and their parents. Back as many generations there, you've got these things coming up. Now, you could go through some complex process to try and understand it, to wrestle with it, to fight with it, to struggle. But what I'm telling you is that I've designed this process that's working through, hopefully, ideally, everybody, and finding these things and unlocking them. And so you don't have to guide it. You don't have to understand it. What you have to do is allow it. At this point, you basically get two choices in how you handle this. You can surrender, either ignore it completely or feel it and move through it. Right? This one choice. The other choice is you can fight it. No, I want to keep on to this. And my guess is that you'll lose if you fight it, but the process will be a lot more painful. That you'll use all your energy fighting this and grow weaker and sicker and have more and more trouble, and so eventually you're too weak to fight, and then it will happen. Your wisest choice in this is what I've called for years wise surrender. Your most effective choice in this is to breathe and feel and be present and allow. I would suggest when things are crazy over the next few weeks, because they'll get crazier, I promise, is that you take and you put yourself in your guts and you find the truest sense of you there. Now, if you're a white belt or yellow belt, there may not be a good idea, but what that truest sense of you is, if you're a green belt or above, you should have a pretty solid idea. Right? But when it's crazy, you just put yourself there and try, I'm just going to be that. Yes, I want to scream and throw things. I want to vomit. I want to shoot myself. I want to smash somebody else, whatever. These are all just feelings and experiences that are coming up. You come back to your center and just hold that largest sense of you. And instead of saying, "Rawr, I'm angry," you say, I am this. And there is anger. I'm so sad. I am this. And there's a bunch of sadness. I'm disgusted with you. I am this. And there's some disgust. And your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents all the way back had anger and fear and disgust and the rest. These things are going to come up. Your job over the next few weeks is just to hold you. Just to be completely you as possible. That's all. It's a very simple thing. I don't claim it's easy. It'll be messy at times, but it's simple. Just hold you. And you think, but I want to get things done. I want to progress. I want to get my blue belt or my black belt or my orange belt or whatever. For the next few weeks, it's a good time to just be you. Now, most of you have heard of the East Indian idea of the yugas, the Kali Yuga. The idea that an age of many, many years goes past. And it's a golden age where everything's wonderful. And then something happens in the age end and a new one begins. And you get a very, very long period of many years where things aren't so good and lots of stuff's going wrong, but it's still pretty good. And that's a silver age. And then you go through bronze age. Things are pretty rough. And then you go through the dark age, the iron age. And things are just ugly and dark, and the shadow rules, and orcs overrun the land, and the world gets poisoned with pollution, and you end up somewhere where we are today. Most of you are familiar with the idea of the yugas. And the Kali Yuga, the time of destruction being the darkest one, is where many people, myself included, tell you that we've been in the Kali Yuga, in the Iron Age, in the darkest of the ages. But right now we are moving, and we are moving to the Golden Age, to the next one in the cycle, to something amazing and wonderful. Now, what happens is, most of you know the word trajectory, the path something follows, like if you throw a ball, the trajectory. What happens is, trajectory at the start of an age is important. Within an age, there are smaller segments, and at each one of those, the trajectory at the start defines the path that you follow through that age. Right now, between now and, around the end of 2012, the end of this year, this is the last time where we can finish setting that trajectory. And it's why I and others have been working so hard to get things going in the direction it should be. It's a little bit like the idea of drawing back a bow, right? And I can aim it, and I can aim it, and I can aim it, but eventually I gotta let go. And once I do, that arrow is gone. I can't rush up alongside it and adjust it in flight. It's there. And what I feel at this point, what I feel very clearly, is that we are coming up to the place of release. And it's probably going to be around the 28th of December of this year, that release point. And so I'm working crazy hours and really exhausting myself, and many others are as well, to try and get as much lined up as possible before that date. We're weaving it in and pressing it in, and getting, as we're coming up to that date, it's getting more and more compressed. And then around that date, between the 22nd and the 28th of December, it's going to release. And all that pressure that's building up is going to start releasing. And so very quickly the pressure will start dropping off. And within 6 months, you'll know significantly how much everything's relaxed and how different it will be. But it's taking 1,000 years building up to this pressure. It'll take 1,000 years building out of it. It's just, if you were to, for those mathematically inclined, if you look at the graph of that pressure, it's not a nice smooth curve. In essence, it's building up to a release point, and from there it's dropping off very quickly. And so this is what you're going through. You get to live through the beginning of an age. You get to experience this changing of an age. And it is something truly astounding. When you're going through it all, you're thinking, oh, I feel emotionally crazy, I'm a wreck, my dad, my mom, my stuff. But when you can step back. Now, if I am correct, and I feel it very strongly, but, perhaps I'm wrong about all of it. You have to base it on my track record or on your gut feelings, whatever. But what I feel is that we are at the end of this age. Right? The official Mayan calendar thing they talk about, that ended back in 2010. Right? That was the end of that cycle. And now, the last 2 years, we've been building up to this pressure so that we can release in a new direction. We're getting to the point where that ends. And so I will continue to make it messy for you guys. Exactly that. I will continue to do as much as I can to set that arrow on a true course. And the result is that for the next 2 months, month and a half, you guys are going to deal with messy. Oh well. I'd say I have sympathy, but I just don't care. This is what needs to happen, and you guys get to live through it. So, your wisest choice is not to fight, it's to stay in your guts, and to be as aware as you know how, and to play and have fun, and take notes on it, because someday you'll want to look back and say, what was I doing at that point? I don't really remember. Take notes and remember, and write stories, and play games, and talk to one another, and share, and help one another. You went, excuse me, through something today that I've been expecting for a long time and haven't seen it yet. As this age changes, the younger people are saying, oh my God, finally. My whole life I've been feeling nothing makes sense and nobody understands me. I don't get the world and it's all so confusing. As things change, you're going to be going, oh my God, finally, this is what I've been expecting. Hey, but there are older people in your world who were very at ease in the old world. Very at ease in the way things used to be. They liked it. The structures, the rules, the darkness and shadow, all of it is just part of who they are. And so as things are changing, they're going to have to change to be part of the new world, the new energies. The problem is that past a certain age, it gets harder and harder to change. You get set in your ways. So what I've been predicting for 10 years now, and I haven't been watching the statistics, but I'm still predicting it, is that we are going to have a sudden crossing over of a lot of the older people. That all over the world, older people and those who are just too stuck in their ways to change are just going to start dying. I don't expect an epidemic where half the world dies off, but I do expect an increased number of the elderly to just start crossing over. Because they're holding all those old energies and they're tied to that old energies, and as the world releases in a new direction, they're going to say, I don't fit anymore. And they may die of some disease, they may get hit by a car, die in violence. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I expect this. The thing to watch for is a lot of the older people crossing over. And when it happens, it's not a thing to be upset about. This life is not that important. You live an astoundingly long time, and then you come and you spend just a few years on this planet. It's a bit like going to the Bahamas for a week. Only, the Bahamas are nice. It's, I don't know, more like living in a dark little cave for a week. But some people do that. They call it camping. And then when the week's up, okay, well, it's been fun, but it's time to go back to my life. And that's what's happening to these people when they cross. It's not, oh my God, they lived a long life and now they just don't exist anymore. Or maybe they're going to heaven or hell. No, that mythical nonsense is irrelevant. The truth is, you're a creature with an astoundingly long lifetime. And in that lifetime, you take little vacations in different bodies and on different worlds. And you've taken a human lifetime long vacation on this world. And when the time comes, you'll say, okay, because for most of you don't remember other lifetimes and other experiences. You think, oh no, I'm going to die. What's next? It's so terrifying. But all you have to do is remember 2 or 3 lives. And you can remember in those lifetimes dying. And you can remember going on to what's next and going, oh, I'm finally home. That was a long trip. And so if you can do that, just remember a few of those. And if you can't, then talk to those who do remember a few of them. And understand here and accept here in your guts that the death at the end of this lifetime is just a simple returning home. Not scary, not bad. It's just, it's like taking a really deep breath and swinging underwater, to collect pearls or pick up shells or something. And then when your breath finally runs out, you go back to the surface. And that's really what this lifetime is like. You take a deep breath, hold all that energy, you dive down into this dense, heavy place. And you gather some pearls and take some things and look around and have some experiences. And then you, excuse me, you pop back to the surface. Excuse me, the last couple of weeks have been tough. You pop back to the surface and take a deep breath and feel the sun on your face and go, ah, yes. And that's very difficult to accept, perhaps, if you don't have a lot of experience with this. You've been taught that life is all that matters and death is big and scary, but no. Death is just coming back to the surface so you can breathe again. And so if people do start crossing over in large numbers, don't be upset about it. Don't fuss. Just celebrate that they decided, the camping trip going in that direction, I don't want to do it. I'm just going to head home. And it happens at every changing of age. There are new ones coming in saying, yes, I want to experience this. Old ones saying, I just don't dig this anymore. And they pass on. If I survive this, and there are days that are questionable, if I survive this, others are going to keep working. Up through somewhere around the 22nd of December is where we've set it to explode, unlock. And you should find lots of crazy stuff going on then, this should be an interesting Christmas. And then around the 28th should be the final point, beyond which the inputs just don't matter that much. That's the letting go of the bowstring. And so the start of next year in the Western tradition. The 31st of December, 1st of January will in fact be the start of something amazingly new. It's the start of something that will last, I don't know, maybe thousands of years. So, does it make your life easier? No. You still got to deal with the mom and dad stuff coming up. You still got to deal with people dying. You still got to deal with crazy neighbors. Speaking of, give me push the pause button on the neighbors. I don't hear them anymore. You've still got to deal with folks in the street being neurotic or nervous or crazy. Everyone in the world's right now is dealing with mom and dad stuff. Now there's some, like you spent the last 2 months intensely in your guts clearing that. Yeah, whatever, there's some mom and dad stuff. But there are others, oh my God, it's so much. I'm going crazy. I can't handle this. I can't. Rah! It's not just you. Whether they're aware or not, whether they're paying attention or not, whether they're present or not, everyone in the world's, everyone. In essence, it's affecting trees and squirrels and ants and, I mean, not just human beings. Everyone and everything around the world's spreading out into the space of dreams and the shamanic realm and other places that you guys know about only by hearsay. It's moving across there in wave 2. And this metagenetics passing down of the darkness from generation to generation to generation is ending. From here on out, people should be imprinting on things I consider healthy and holy and sacred and light. And there are probably folks out there saying, oh, this is evil, this is horrible. I don't want to imprint on that, that's, that's not right. And they like the darkness or the violence or the confusion. And some of them have talked to me and said this, and sometimes in very aggressive ways, in the last few weeks especially. But when I was a small child in this lifetime, I was taught you can make all of the people happy some of the time. You can make some of the people happy all the time, but you can't make all the people happy all the time. And so at this point, I've got to take that to heart. I'm not worrying about making everyone happy. This is change. Change often provokes fear and panic and uncertainty and anger and confusion. And instead of letting it gradually unfold over 1,000 years, we are packing a lot of it into right now. A lot of change, a lot of intensity, so that once it does explode out the other side, a lot of things should become much easier for so many people. Not just human people, animal people, and tree people, and fish people. A lot of things should become easier. But to do that means I've got to work myself past my limits. And I have got to do things that will make you folks uncomfortable. And you're going to squawk and get a little squiggly, and that's okay. It's crazy change. It's lots of stuff going on. It's something you as a biological system are not engineered for. Biological, emotional, mental, social, whatever. You're not for this. You like things stable. And I and others are intentionally creating a lot more change. So what I'm telling you is stay in your guts. Hold on to Katon, the truest self you can find, as powerfully as you can. And when you find yourself slipping out of it, don't say, oh no, I'm screwing up. You say, oh, I'm over here. Okay, let me hear. 30 seconds later, rah, 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 rah. Ah. Don't fight, don't wrestle, don't fuss. Just, oh, I'm out of it. Let me come back to it. If you know what you want to be, if you want to be an A3F, say, this strong, beautiful mother type, and you find yourself going, rah, 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 you think, wait a minute, 3F. All right, let me hold that. And if you've got some idea of who you want to be in this lifetime, you want to be big and shiny, you want to be a big, strong man, you want to be beautiful, you want to be graceful, you want to be an impressive speaker. If you've got some idea, you come back to your guts and you hold that idea. Here's me as a really impressive speaker. Here's me as someone beautiful. Here's me as someone really graceful or brave or bold or obnoxious or whatever your thing is. right? But just keep doing that, because it will happen again and again. Just come back to here. Hold them for a moment, the idea of what you want to be. And the crazy and the silly and the sad and the confused will still be there. Oh well, don't sweat it. Just come back to here. Your purpose at this point is not to get all the right answers. Mostly it's to stay in your seat while the test is going on. I know, it's a screwy kind of test here, but it doesn't matter what you write on the paper. All that matters is that you stay in your seat till the test is over and you win. I didn't make up the rules. I'm just refereeing the game. So, to come back to where I started, I told you I'd walk around the bush and give you this big lot of words to explain things, but it comes down to this. For the last couple of weeks, you've been messy, more messy than usual. For the next few weeks, you're going to be even more messy. Times are going to be great and wonderful, and you're going, oh my God, I'm so glad to be alive. It's beautiful. Look, oh, the smells, the colors, oh, it's all so wonderful and amazing. And oh my God, it's too much. And there's going to be some of that. Just expect it. Don't take it personal. GCB. Cotton. And if you can't be everything you want to be, or don't get everything done, or don't make everybody happy, or your husband's not happy, your girlfriend's fussy, your kid's complaining, whatever, don't sweat it. I did some work today with, most of you mythologically know the idea of selling your soul to the devil. Now, there isn't the devil, it's a myth. But there are things that don't wear bodies, and many of them are much darker than you would like. And they will sign a contract with you. There have been many stories in your mythologies, and many of them are true, of someone signing a contract with a dark thing and giving away a lot of their power and their self so that they can gain more power to affect the world. It's sort of like the idea of selling your soul to the devil, or going to the crossroads and selling, communicating with devils, getting better at playing a violin. It's, or perhaps there's a guitar, I've forgotten now. But there are many of these stories, and they are there because they happen. When I was in Sacramento, California a few years ago, I had a boy who was maybe 15. And I was at a shop where you could go in and use a computer online for a moment. Because I was traveling, I didn't have anything. So I went in there to use a computer, and I met this boy and started talking. And he started bragging to me about his invisible friend, whom he called a demon. And he said, he gave him a name. I've forgotten what the name was. But he said, oh, my friend so talks to me, and he tells me things about people. And it's great, because he tells me secrets. I know stuff about people. Stuff I should know. And he gives me all this cool stuff. This boy made this connection with some sort of non-biological entity. And at the time I checked, and he really was talking about something, and it really was a dark something. So I reached out and went, poof. And the boy sat there for a bit. And then he started to yell at me. You killed him. You got rid of him. You got rid of Fox. How can you do that? Fox was my friend. And rah, rah, rah. And if the boy was just making stuff up in his head, I didn't tell him anything. I just, and then when I was listening to the kid, if he was just making stuff up, he'd have said, oh yeah, my friend Fox, he's still telling me things. He didn't. The moment I did this, his eyes got big. He's gone. You killed Fox. What are you doing? And he came back, next time I was there a week later. I found Fox again. You didn't. And I checked it. It was a totally different entity, but the boy wanted one called Fox, so this one came to him and said, okay, I'm Fox. And the boy just made an agreement with this thing. And this kind of stuff, it is going on in your world today. And it's been going on for a long time. The idea of selling your soul to the devil or to a dark power to get more something. More life, more beauty, more meta ability. It's not common. Do you have to understand it? No. Does it matter? No. What's relevant is that when you do make that kind of connection, it gets passed down to your children. They are somewhat bound by your thing, to their children, to their children. And so I went out today and worked with children all over the world whose parents have made such connections, and I broke the connections everywhere so that children no longer carry that from their parents. Now, when they're old enough, if they want to make their own decision to do something like that, that's their choice. I left it open, but I set the kids free. And the result is that a lot of kids are going to be crazy for the next couple of weeks. Something that's bound to them, that's tied them, it's been solid, is gone. And their system has to realign. And tomorrow, I will do something like that that's totally different. And the day after, I'll do something else. So, children, old people, men, women, goats, trees, everybody's hidden time, or suddenly something they've grown to depend on, is gone. It's different, it's changed. And up through the end of this year, I'm going to keep doing it. I and others were pushing harder to make it more and more and more complete, to weave this into, so it's not random threads, to weave it into a complete package. And make sure that it's totally done, so that when it's time to release it, we haven't missed anything, so the arrow flies true. And so, no apology for this. Someday, if it works as I intend, you folks will look back and be very, very grateful that it happened. For now, all you got is neurotic and crazy and squidgy. Oh my God, it's changing! And I'm telling you, just deal. There's nothing you can do about it. Even if at this point you were to hunt me down and kill me personally, there are others working on it too. And I'm not just stopping my body would stop me. I just keep going. So there really is nothing you can do about it. And those who have tried to stop me, the things of power in the old world, most of them are no longer things of power. I don't care to be stopped in this. What we're doing is too important. So you can't stop me. You can't change it. All you can do at this point is ride along. Think of it like a water ride at an amusement park. It's just the crazy part where you're shooting at incredible speed through here and water splashing. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. Ah! My suggestion to you is just throw up your arms in the air and go, yay! This is a wild ride. And eventually it will come to a stop and you'll be dripping wet. Let's do that again. So for now, I'm telling you, it's not going to change. It's going to keep going. What I want you to do is be aware, as much as possible. Cartoon, GCB. And with those pieces, awareness and GCB, cartoon, the true self, you'll survive this and you'll do well. Someone just showed me today an online thing where she built a garden. And that garden is so peaceful and calm and amazing. It's all the best stuff of her. She's managed to put in space. She's done it in the last 3 days when the energy is crazy and neurotic and out of control. What I'm telling you is this is now possible. You get caught up in the crazy and neurotic, out of control, and panic and drama, blah, 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 blah. Look at my hands, blah, 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 blah. Yes. Or here, awareness, GCB, cartoon, and act from there. And maybe you won't get as much done, but what you get done will be beautiful. Not because it's my work, but because it's you. It's reflecting who you are inside. It's reflecting each one of you. When you can find who you truly are and express that, what you express will be beautiful, because each and every one of you is beautiful. Who you truly are inside. For me, this is true. Those of you who are mature enough to have gotten to be able to look inside have found beauty there. And so as you grow up, you'll say, wow, he was right. How did he know? But for now, I'm just telling you. Awareness, GCB, cartoon. Be present. And if you act, speak, think, do, act, think, speak, do, from that beauty in the center of you. And just, expect a wild ride. And that's really all I have to say to you. So, for now, good night.